Hi, this is Scott with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at our Aries TrailChaser bumper brush guard kit for our 2022 Jeep Gladiator. The Aries TrailChaser bumper is going to come as a kit as we see it here, and this is a modular system, so you can change it around if you want, if you feel the need to change things up. Start out, it comes with our end caps here. And our end caps are also made of aluminum, just like our bumper. And we do have our pods that come with the kit, and these just basically bolt in. They're LED pods. They're kind of cool. What they do is have their own standalone switch, so you can just kick them on and say you're out on the trail or whatever. You can just kind of turn these on, and they shoot off down the trail, so you can see what's going on off to the side. They're LED, so they're pretty bright. They put out some pretty good light. I was kind of impressed with how bright they are after we got them all hooked up. And they end up looking pretty good. And those just bolt onto our center section here. Our center section has pretty much a lot of options you could change up on this. It's kind of neat. We did go with the round tube on this one. And everything just bolts right to this. And this is where it's going to be your starting point of your kit. We ended up going with our round tube on this one. I think it looks pretty good on this style of Jeep. It does have your light mounts up here, so if you want to go with some additional, little light pods or something up on here, or even a light bar that goes across here, you could do that. That's kind of a neat option you could go with. Our center section here does allow us to use our factory fog lights, so we do have them in, and them all they really do is just pop right in place. And it does retain the factory adjusters, so if you want to adjust where your light's pointed, you could do that also. And then those just run off our factory switch on the inside, so that's pretty cool. Installation on this one really wasn't too bad. We put everything together, sitting out on the bench, and put it all together, and had another guy or two come in and help bolt it up, and went right in place real nice. But I will mention on this one, we did end up putting the optional winch plate in just to see how it fit. If you do eventually want to get a winch, I would recommend possibly getting that first, because what that's going to do is it's going to keep you from having to take the bumper off to end up putting the winch plate on. So we just went ahead and put it on to see how it fit, and it ended up fitting really nice. But that's definitely an option I would look at if you're looking at this bumper system. Being this is a modular bumper, it is going to come in different boxes here. You're going to have 3 or 4 different boxes it's going to come with, and you're going to have instructions for all your different components. You're going to have instructions for your end caps. You're going to have instructions for your lights. You're going to have instructions for your center section and your bull bars. Basically, just follow along, and you'll be able to get it together with no problem. It's not really too hard to get together. If it seems like something that you may not want to be doing yourself, you can always look at our dealer locator and find a place that'll do that for you. That's a really nice option that we have. But once we get back to the installation, we'll show you all the stuff that's got to come off. Your factory bumper has to come off, and we literally have to take the whole entire bumper apart. You're going to end up with a pile of hardware. You're going to have a pile of parts and plastic and pieces. Basically, to get the fog lights out is not that big of a deal. Them just come out as entire housings. But getting at the wiring for your fog lights is going to be the biggest issue. You have to pull your whole entire bumper apart and get way back up in here, and it's all in behind this part. So you pull this part here, and you end up with your bumper beam and your support bracket and your plastic parts all over. It's going to seem like a lot of stuff to take apart, but if you follow along with our instructions, you will definitely get through it. So if it seems like something you want to do yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll get it put on together. To start our installation of our new Aries bumper, there are going to be a few things we have to do. First of all, we have to get off the bumper that came with our Jeep. So first thing we're going to start doing is we do have some clips back here. These are just some standard pop-in body clips. We have some along this side and a couple right here. We're just going to take a screwdriver. You can either use a screwdriver or a clip tool. Today we're just going to use a screwdriver and just start popping those clips out. Just kind of get behind them and wiggle them a little bit. And sometimes there may be a little dirt or something in behind them. So you just kind of wiggle them out like that and they will break loose for you. All right, now we're down to our last clip. You can see there's a little slot here. It may be in a way where you can't really get at it. What you can do is take your screwdriver and just spin it over to the side here. That's going to allow you to get in there and get under it and just wiggle it to get it to come up. And then you can take both fingers and just pull it out of there. And once we have that out, our plastic piece should just come right out for us. Now that we have our plastic panel out of the way, we have our little clip here for our fog lights. What this little plug is going to do, it's going to allow us to pull the whole bumper off and just leave our fog lights in until we need to get at those with this off of the vehicle. So what we're going to do is we're just going to push in on this little clip here, and we're just going to pull these two apart, and that'll get us disconnected from the vehicle itself. All right, now that we've got that done up there, now we're going to jump onto the vehicle here, and we have our plastic skid plate we're going to take down. And what we're going to do is we're going to take an 8mm socket, and we are just going to back out these two 8mm bolts on the bottom. All right, now that those are out, we're going to move on to our clips. We're going to have quite a few clips across the bottom here, and they can seem to be a little tricky to get at. You will be able to do it with a screwdriver, but we are going to use a clip tool on these, and just going to get under them and just under the front top there, and we're going to pull those out. May have to wiggle them again, just like you did the other ones, just to get them to pop loose. And we're going to go across the whole front here and get all of those out, and that will get our little skid plate out of the way. These can be a little tricky, so you might have to wiggle them around, maybe use your tool to kind of pull them part way out. Sometimes if you get up under that a little bit too with your tool, that'll help pull it out. It's just their location makes it a little difficult to get at. You probably could take the bumper off from above it and leave this part on and just pull it all off as a whole unit. But we're going to take it off to make it easier for you guys to see. With those all out, now you can pull out your lower skid plate. All right, now that we have everything out of the way, now we're going to start the process of taking our whole bumper off. And behind here on our bumper, we're going to have 4 18mm nuts on the back of our bumper on each side. There's going to be 2 on this side and 2 on this side, and the same on the passenger side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break these loose first and make it easier on our tool to back them out. So I'm just going to use a ratchet and kind of break them loose, and I'm going to go along and do that to all of them. And then I'll come back with my power ratchet and back them all out. The nuts are going to be kind of tight, so that's why we're going to break them loose with a ratchet first. And then it'll be a lot easier once we get our power ratchet on it, because they are kind of longer bolts that they're attached with. So with the power latch, the ratchet, it's just going to save us a lot of time. And when you get down to your last couple, you're going to have an extra set of hands help hold the bumper up for you, because you're going to be under here trying to get these off, and you'll want somebody to hold it in place. And then once you get the last ones out, you can hop out and then help them pull it off. Now that we have all the nuts taken off, got an extra set of hands here, we're just going to lift off our factory bumper and get that set out of the way for now. We will be reusing some parts on this one, so we're just going to set it over here out of the way until we're ready for that. Since our bumper is modular, We do have an optional winch plate here. This is going to allow you to mount a winch in behind your bumper, and it makes it look really nice. We're going to go ahead and see how this one fits on here and probably install it with our system just to show you guys how that is an option and it will go on with your Aries bumper. We're going to take a 16mm socket and ratchet and just break those loose. And we got 2 of them here. Now we'll just come back in with our power ratchet and back those all the way out. Now if you just lift up, it will be slotted with little tabs here, and you'll be able to move that out of the way. As you can see, it just sits in, kind of drops into place. Just lift up and pull that off. Now with an extra set of hands here, we're just going to lift it into place and get ready to get our top bolts installed. And just kind of have somebody help you hold it there. Should be fairly simple. And we're going to run our bolt and carriage. Wait, let's start that part over. We're going to run our spacer plate and carriage bolt through and just get it through our winch there. All right, with this bottom one here, what we're going to do is we're just going to take our knee and get that lined up there. And we're going to go through both the bottom and the side access hole here. And we're going to run that one in. Kind of going to use both hands to get that to go into place. It can be a little tricky, but you'll get it. Once you get one in there, that's going to help line up the other side. We got that, and we'll get a washer on. Our split lock washer and a nut, just get it started. Okay. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. Bring it up through the bottom. Can be a little tricky to get it in place, but you will get it there. Your spacer block may grab on there. You'll have to get it pointed up and down. And once you do that, it'll pop right into place. At this point, we're going to get our winch plate fairly level here. Make sure it looks good to you. Get it where you want it. And we're just going to snug them down real quick. And then once you get one, you want to get it kind of looking good for you. Get it where you want it and get it snugged up. Now that we have our winch plate on and we got everything snugged down, we're just going to go back through and tighten up our hardware to manufacturer specifications in the instructions. With our winch plate installed, now we can start with our installation of our Aries TrailChaser bumper. With this on here, if you do plan on ever getting a winch or you do have a winch, I would recommend probably getting this part on first. It's going to save you time down the road from having to take your bumper back off and put this on and then put everything back on. This is going to save you a lot of time if you do plan on running a winch. Now for this step in our installation, we're going to need to get at our factory fog lights that are in our bumper here. And we're just going to start by taking out these side panels on each side. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all of these little clips around here, and we're going to do that on both sides. So we're just going to start with our screwdriver, and some of these may have a little dirt built up in them, so you may have to wiggle them around to get them to pull out, but they will come out for you. All right, with all those removed, just lift off your panel, and that'll allow us to get at our housing for our fog lights here. Now that we have the panel out of the way, we're just going to unclip our light here. We're going to push in on this little clip here and pull up on that, and we will start to remove our fog light here. Going to take a 7mm socket and just break all these loose. Those out. We We can just pull our light housing out, and we will be reusing those. We'll just set those off to the side. Now we'll need to get our wiring harness for our fog lights out from our bumper here, and we'll have to separate this beam right here, from our plastic bumper housing to get our wires from out behind there. So to start off, we're just going to take our clip tool and get behind these little factory retainers here and pop those out. We've got one here and we've got this one here. We're just going to use our tool and pop those up carefully, not to damage them. We have those on both sides. Now to get our bumper beam out so we can get at our wiring, we have 8 nuts inside of our beam here that we're going to have to take out. So we're just going to take our 13mm socket and our power ratchet and back all of those out. Now we can lift our beam out so we can get at the harness here. So our new Aries bumper is going to utilize our factory fog lights, and this is really kind of a cool way this goes in here. All we're going to do, we're going to remove this housing here that's around this. So what we're going to do is in these little clips is we're just going to push in. You see these little clips here. We're just going to push those in and get our housing to kind of go past that. Then we're going to do it on this side, and we're going to push some clips in and get that to go past it, and you'll see that's going to slide out. Now down here on our adjuster, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to push some clips in and push that out and pull off the whole housing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our new bumper. Holes in here. What we're going to do is we're just going to pop it right in place. We're going to line it up, get everything lined up here, and just pop it right into place. That sits in there nice and tight. You still retain your adjusters on those, and it gets your fog lights tucked back in and protected back there in that new bumper. With it pushed in, you can see how these little tabs just lock it in, the little plastic tabs that come on our factory housing, and it pretty much just mounts in the same way it does on our factory mount. It just click right in place and holds it in really nice and tight. Now that we have our fog lights in our new bumper that we're going to be installing, we're going to have to get our wiring harness out of here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to undo all these little mounting bolts that run around the perimeter of our bumper all the way around. We're going to remove those. But first, we're going to start by pulling out these hooks and get those out of the way. Those just pull out through the bottom there, and we'll set those off to the side. Now we can start pulling out all these screws. It's nice to have a magnetic tray or a little bowl or something to put them all in, because you're going to end up with a whole lot of them that come out of this one. Now that we have all of our bolts out of the back of our bumper here, we're just going to lift out the inner panel here, and that is going to open up to where we can get at our wiring for our factory fog lights. Now, to start doing that, all we're going to do is we're going to pull them up through the hole here and get them out of there. That will be our first step. Let's get our connections through. Now we'll just go along the back of our bumper panel here, and we will start popping out our little clips. We're just going to use our clip tool and try and get up under these, and that'll help us pop them out. Just give it a little pressure and they should come out for you. The hardest part will probably just get your tool under there, and once you get it all the way under, just kind of give it nice pressure and it'll pop right out. With those all popped out, now we have our wire harness free for our fog lights. Now we've got our center section here all set up, and we're going to start on our end caps This is the next step in our direction. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to go with the one that has the pod lights that ships in the kit, and it's going to have all of our hardware and everything we need. These are going to go on with our 3 bolts here, washers, and our nuts. And these out here, the outer ones here on the outsides towards the back, are going to be really easy to do. It does get a little tricky when we get to the one up here in the front. And that one you're going to have to get your hand up in and kind of work it around, but we'll show you how to get that done. We'll get a washer on, then our split lock washer, and we'll start a nut. Just want to snug it down by hand. That'll hold it in place for you. Then we can move on to our next one. This back here is going to be a tight fit. So you just take your bolt and kind of get it to work through there. And you may need to hold it together now that you have these two here. I would just hold this together and then get your washers to go through. You're going to be going through this slot underneath here, and that's how you're going to get access to it. If you can get your hand in there a certain way that it seems like it works best for you. I found it easier to get down a little bit, and so I can get a better angle with my hand while holding the bolt in, and then just go in from underneath and just get my hand in a certain way, and it worked out really well. They give you enough room in the slot down there to get in there. It just may seem a little awkward at first when you're trying to do it, but you can definitely get it done. Now we're just going to snug down our 3 bolts here, and we're just going to get them snug, and then we'll come back and get them to the correct torque specs. Now this one here, this bolt down here in the front, it is going to be a little cramped, but you'll be able to get in there with the ratchet, but you'll have kind of limited area to move your ratchet. But I just take a normal box end wrench and get down here in the end, and I'll kind of alternate from turning the ratchet and also moving the wrench up here, kind of get it to a point where it's snug with the wrench, and then follow back up with doing them both at the same time, and it'll get tight for you. After we have them all snugged down, now we're going to follow up with our torque wrench. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can pick one up through eTrailer or borrow one from your local auto parts store. We're just going to bring them down to the manufacturer's specified torque settings in our manual. Now we'll get our LED pod installed. This is going to be really nice to have on the ends of our bumpers. It's kind of act like a ditch light a little bit, or kind of like light the sides of the woods up where you're going down a trail or whatever. We're just going to get them installed here. If you can see on the bumper itself, we have a little cutout there, a little rounded half moon area. That's going to match up with the bottom of our light here. So this is going to be the bottom. We're just going to run that up in here, and you'll see how that matches up real nice there. Okay, now we'll just hold it in place, and we'll insert our hardware from the bottom. Hold that up into our light, and we'll get one of them started. Just hold your bolt into place, and you put your washer on. And you get a nylon lock nut started. Get it down finger tight, and that's going to hold your light in place so you can continue on to your next one. Okay, now we'll get our back ones over here, back in the back. These are going to be a little more tricky, so we're just going to start on those right now. We're going to do one at a time here. We'll get one run through. And this one you kind of go by feel. Just get your bolt pushed all the way through and kind of feel around to this side. Being upside down like this is going to help keep your washer on the bolt. It just seems to be a little easier. Now you can get your nut started on there. And these we're just going to tighten down snug. With the included Allen key, we're just going to go ahead and do the hard ones first. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get that one popped on, the one in the back. And the best way I've found to do it is just take your ratchet with a short extension and your 10 millimeter and just put that on there and actually just hold it with your ratchet there and actually use your Allen key to tighten down and just get it snug, and then move up to the next one here and do the same thing. Now that we have our light pods installed, our kit will come with our wiring harness that we need to get them all wired up. Since we're not leaving this bumper on this vehicle, we're going to end up just doing the mock-up of it, and we're going to run these under the hood so we can show you guys how the lights work and everything like that. But we will be showing you the installation of this wiring harness. Depending on how you order your bumper, it is a modular system, so you can change it up whichever way you want it when you order it up. For us today, we're just going to go with the rounded brush guard and kind of go with that and see how that looks. With an extra set of hands, I'm going to have somebody hold it in place, and I'll start getting it bolted in place. All you're going to do is just start the nut, at least get it started on both ends of it, and then you'll follow it up with a ratchet. Now, inside of our brush guard up here, there will be a weld nut, so all you're going to really run in for hardware is your washer, your lock nut, and the bolt, and it's already threaded up in the brush guard itself, so it makes it a little bit easier to install it. Now that we've got them all started in there, now we've just got to get in here and tighten them up. We do have the access for it here, but it's kind of a weird angle, so what I managed to do is get a swivel ratchet with a 16 millimeter socket on it and just kind of go in there at an angle like that. And once you get it on there, you should be able to tighten her up. Just keep working your ratchet and you'll bring it down tight. Now with an extra set of hands, we're just going to get it set in place. It should set in place, almost really line itself up with our winch plate on there, and it's going to fit right up against our frame rails. So it's going to line up really nice for us. And it is going to be a little tight fit, so we'll just kind of push back on it. All right, this will be the hardware we get with our kit. You're going to have our 8 bolts here, and our 8 nuts, and we got our washers and our lock washers. The way we're going to get this set up is we're going to go on with a flat washer, and then once we put it on, we're going to follow that up with a flat washer, and then we're going to go with a lock washer, and then our nut, and then we'll just run them all hand tight down on all of them before we go back through and tighten them all up. That's going to let us get everything lined up the way we want it before we crank everything down tight. With our bumper in place, now we're just going to go to the hardware. We're going to take one of our bolts here, and we're going to take one of our washers, and we're going to start on with that. And we're going to just put one in place here. And we're just going to go ahead and get them all in place, and then we'll get up under there and we'll start getting the rest of the hardware in place on them. They can be a little tricky. You may have to move your bumper around a little bit to get them to go in. Just minor adjustments as you go along. All right, now that we're under here, we're going to take a washer and we're going to run it up on to the bolt we just put through, and we're going to take our split lock washer and we're going to follow it up with that and take one of our nuts and just run it down hand tight. And we're just going to do the same thing with the rest of them. There is going to be one that's a little tricky, and I'm going to go over that one with you here in just a second. But the 3 that I'm doing right now are fairly simple. You will have access to put your hand in this slot right here to get to the back of your bolts and hold them in place while you are threading on the nut. Now this top one here, there is a way up top here that you can get through this hole to get your washer in and your lock nut. I noticed when I did the other side that you don't have much room to get between the frame and this inner piece of the bumper here. So I started looking around and I found out your bolt runs right through here. Here's the end of your bolt, and you've got your threaded end right here. So I figured out a way to do it to where you don't have to try and squeeze through there. You're just gonna get your washer on here. And this is gonna make your life so much easier doing it this way. And if you can hold your nut on there and then turn your bolt to get it threaded, just like that. Just hold it in place like that, and there you have it. It's threaded on. Now you can go back and tighten them all up. Now with them all started, we got them all in place. Now we're just gonna go back through and tighten them up with our 18mm socket and our 6-inch extension and an 18mm wrench angled. And we're just gonna put the wrench up in the pocket here and follow up behind with our powered ratchet. We're just going to follow that procedure on both sides. All right, now that we got everything all snugged up, we'll just bring this down to the torque specified in our manual. Now that we have our bumper all torqued down, we're just going to go into our wiring here. This is going to be our wiring for our lights that go on our bumper itself that came in our kit. This system here has our relay, and that's going to be our little point where everything plugs into. And this does come all assembled. It's going to have our switch here, and it's going to have our positive and negative, and our positive line will go to our positive battery, and this will be grounded. And it does have our fuse point here. And these will be our leads that run off to each of our lights over there in the bumper itself. We are going to get this installed today. What we're going to do is we will show you how to get this hooked up. We will not be putting the switch into the dash because we will not be leaving this system in there. But we will get it set up where we can show you as a demonstration on how the lights work. Now that we have all our lights installed, all we really did is just hooked up our factory fog lights and then ran them up and hooked them up on the passenger side of the frame here where they both connect. Then we just ran our wires for our new lights that come with our bumper. We ran them up along the frame rail there and then ran them up towards the battery. We did mount up here in the engine bay. We did put our relay up in here and kind of ran our wires because this is not a permanent fix on this one. And then we did run our negative to our negative side, which is the black wire, and the positive, which is the red, over to our positive terminal. And for now, we just have our switch sitting right in here so we can kick them on and off, so we can give them a look and see how they look. And those are basically going to light up off to the side of the trail or to the side of the road for you. So you can see what's going on off to the side. And that's going to do it for our install of our Aries TrailChaser on our 2022 Jeep Gladiator.